This is Iorio, and here's this week's Meaningful Moment.
All right, well, it's that time of the year again. We are near the end of the first month of the year, which of course means your resolutions are long gone. Maybe it took you a couple of weeks before those resolutions were broken. Maybe it took you all of a couple of days before those resolutions were gone. But nonetheless, we know what the stats tell us. We tell us that most resolutions have been thrown out the window by this point of the year. And, it's kind of interesting because resolutions, you look at the root of that word, it's to resolve, right? That's what it's about. Well, resolve would mean that we're resolving tension. We're getting rid of that tension. We're making things easier in some way on us. But very few people I know would describe their resolutions as something that has eased their tension. In fact, most of the time, it just adds to their stress. Well, I want to reframe a bit of that today. But first, let's begin with what is one of those kind of key principles, those key focal points for us to begin to lean into that will help us really stick to the things that matter to us throughout the course of this year. And that principle, that discipline, is to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because that's really where all of this begins, is that when we start to make any type of a change to our lives, to the way we're showing up, by the things that we're focusing on, really what's going to happen naturally is that we're going to run into a point in time where things become very uncomfortable. We don't like discomfort. That's one of the things that we tend to do, is that as soon as that pain, that tension, that stress, that discomfort begins to arise, we want to get rid of it. It's just our natural tendency, right? Why would we want those types of things to stick around and add to our stress level? We got enough things that'll do that. And so naturally, whenever we go through a change, we're going to hit that wall. We're going to hit that moment where it's uncomfortable to continue down the new path that we're trying to go down. But that's actually part of what's really going on, because the old pattern, the old behavior, the old habit, whatever it is that we're trying to change, the reason why it's so comfortable to us is that we have just gone through that cycle time and time again, that routine over and over and over again, and we've worn a rut that allows us to very easily just stay on that track. It's actually hard to get up out of that rut. And it's one of the things that allows it to just perpetuate over and over and over again. So when we're doing something new, we've got to wear a new path. And when you wear a new path, you're prone to hit more bumps along the way. You're going to hit that uncomfortable stage because it is not yet natural. But the more that we get comfortable with that discomfort, the more that we can expand our comfort zone, then the more that a few things are going to happen. Number one is we're going to recognize that when we make changes, we're going to be okay. We're going to land on our feet, and that we can get through whatever that temporary pain happens to be while we're making this change. That's very important. Number two, we're going to have more confidence in making change. When we learn how to get comfortable with that discomfort, with the uncomfortable, we're going to realize and grow confidence around the fact that we can do it. We can persist through it. We know what it takes to kind of get to the other side. And that's going to give us not just confidence, but that's going to give us a kind of a feeling of freedom. Right? Because when we've got things that own us, we can't change them because it feels like it's just too hard. That's kind of giving away a lot of our control. We're allowing things to literally own us. And the more that we show that, no, that's not going to be the case, we do have the ability to persist through. We do have the ability to stick with it and make the change that we want to make. Well, then you're golden. You are in a beautiful position where you're going to have a whole lot more freedom over how you live your life and how you continue to show up and what it is that you choose to go out and do. So it's a very important thing for us to learn how to get through this. I'm somebody, and you've probably heard me mention this on the show. I've practiced meditation for quite a few years now, about 7 years or so. And when you initially learn to meditate, and for some it's just sitting in a nice comfortable chair, perhaps like this, more of my practice has moved where I am kind of sitting in a posture that initially is not so comfortable, and it takes a little while to get used to that. And you're, again, that natural tendency to shift, to move things around, to get rid of whatever the discomfort is as it's originally coming up, is still there. But you learn how to sit with it. You learn how to, literally breathe into it, to release some of that tension that might be felt based on the way that you're sitting. And the longer that you go through that, the more that you're able to persist through some of those things that aren't as comfortable as other positions, you realize that you've got the ability to do it. You've got the ability to stick with it. And all of a sudden, the things that used to be uncomfortable are not going to bother you anymore, because you will develop that muscle. You will loosen that tension. You will open up in such a way that discomfort is no longer uncomfortable to you. And so I wanted to give you just a couple of practices, a couple of steps for you to be able to use next time that this discomfort comes up for you with whatever change you're looking to make. And I would really invite you to go back and take a look at your resolutions, even if they were just in the back of your mind. Maybe they weren't something you wrote down, but take a look at what those resolutions are and connect to them again for a moment while you just kind of go through these basic steps. Number one is that when that discomfort comes up, breathe. That's just the first step. Is just breathe. When you feel yourself reaching for that cookie, when you feel yourself hitting the snooze button so you're not going to get up and go to the gym, whatever it is that is the many different ways that discomfort will pop back up again, it's anything that's trying to keep us stuck back in the old pattern and not make the change. So whatever that is, that resistance is, that keeps you stuck in the old pattern and breaking away from the new one that you really want, anytime you feel that energy start to arise, that's when I just want you to breathe and pause for a moment. You see, what we're trying to do is we're trying to put a pause on that monkey mind, the monkey mind that just wants to go to what it is that it knows and hold on to the things it wants to hold on to. And we want to break that pattern. We want to give you that chance so that you can pause and collect yourself and make an intentional choice about what comes next. But you can't do that unless you bring awareness to where you are at that moment. So the first really simple step is to breathe. And while we say that it's simple, at times it's one of those difficult things to do in the moment. But let's begin there. We're going to breathe. The second is to refocus on where you're going, meaning what your intention is, what you want things to be. You know, it's no different than when you learn how to drive a car and you are learning to drive, you always look at where it is that you want the car to go. Because if you look at what you're trying to avoid, you're actually going to go towards the thing you are actually trying to get rid of and trying to avoid and not crash into. And so same type of thing. When we are making a behavior change, and let me just use the example of making a change in our diet, since that's one of the most common resolutions that is set every single January and broken every single January 2nd, is that we want to focus on where we want to go. So you want to focus on the choices you want to be making. You want to focus on the image of getting to the gym or going out for the walk or taking that hike. Or you want to focus on the image of meditation if you want to build a meditation or a mindfulness practice. Whatever it is that is the change and represents the change that you want to make, that's where you want to focus on. And you want to get your mind away from the pattern that you're trying to leave behind. I know that's easier said than done. You know, you use the phrase and I say pink elephant. What do you think of? You think of a pink elephant, right? So for now, it's just continually to bring up and conjure up those images of the choices you're trying to make, the direction that you were trying to head in. So then the third thing is reconnect to the reason why you're making this change in the first place. And when I say reconnect, I mean deeply reconnect. I mean feel the energy and the emotion of why you want this thing to be different. What is it in the old pattern or what you weren't doing previously? What was that costing you? What was the pain associated with that? What are some of the ill effects that you suffer because of whatever the old pattern was, whether it was something that you were doing that didn't serve you very well or just doesn't serve you anymore, or whether it's something you weren't doing, but you felt like you really should for the benefit of your health or what have you, and it's something that you wanted to do. Reconnect to why you're making that change. Because in reconnecting to that, you're reconnecting to the driver, the motivating force, the impetus behind this change, and that's where your commitment comes from. So the more that you feel into, this is the change I want for myself, and here's why. Here's what's possible when I make that change for myself. The more that you connect to that, and the more that you feel the emotions. I mean, when I say connect, I mean connect emotionally, connect to the energy of it, connect to it, visually in terms of being able to conjure it up, but feel it, experience how you want things to be and the reason why you're making this change. The more that you do that, the more that that reservoir of energy, that fuel that's inside of you will be tapped into. We let go of those things. We turn back to the old way of doing things when that reservoir is running low, when our willpower is running low. Well, the more that we connect into that commitment and the reason behind that commitment, the more that our willpower will grow. And the stronger it'll get, the more grit we'll be able to show at times of challenge, in times of being tested or stressed out even. So first, breathe. Second, refocus on where you want to go. Third, reconnect to the commitment, reconnect to why you are making this change. Fourth, something that most people just completely look past, and it's one of the reasons why we put so much pressure and added stress on ourselves when we make these resolutions. You're looking for progress, not perfection. Just as simple as that. Progress, not perfection. We set these goals for ourselves. We set this new way how we want things to be, and we give ourselves precisely no time to make the adjustment. And as soon as we are off the wagon just one time, it's like, oh, here we go again. I just might as well give up on my resolution. And that's where a lot of people tend to go. And we don't need to, because at the end of the day, if you wanted to get to the gym 3 days a week and you only got there twice this week, but that's 2 more times than you were doing last year, or 1 more time than you were doing last year, that's progress. So next week, see if you can get it back to 3. If you still are at 2, that's fine. Look at the next week, try to get it back to 3, but acknowledge the progress that you have made and the progress that is continuing to be made week after week or day after day, depending on how you measure it. But taking time to note your progress is another thing that you really begin to tap into. Now, it doesn't mean to let your foot off the accelerator. You do want to continue to move forward. You want to continue to picture that goal of where you're going and why you're trying to get to that end goal so that you're continuing to steer there. You always want to run through that finish line. You don't want to slow down when you see the finish line, right? But nonetheless, to consistently remind yourself of the progress that you are making and not to measure yourself by perfection, because it's just going to be defeating in that regard. And then I think the last thing that I'd like to remind you of, and this is, again, another step that most people just don't realize when they're making these types of changes in their life, and see if this one makes sense. Relax and have fun. That's it. Just relax and have fun. We take this stuff so seriously, and we put so much and we invest so much of ourselves and our identity into, oh, I've got to make this change. And I told people I'm going to make this change, or I didn't tell people because I was worried I wouldn't be successful in making this change. Relax. Have some fun with it. Take a look at just, the progress, the steps that you've made so far. Enjoy it. The reason why you're making this change is because it's something that you want for yourself. And so we all want a little more fun. We all want a little more relaxation in our lives. There's no reason to get stressed out for something that you want to do for yourself. Instead, have a little fun with it. Get that moment where you can laugh with the progress you've made and sometimes the progress that you haven't. But at the end of the day, when we just because some things are serious doesn't mean we have to take them seriously. And so be serious about your goals, but have fun along the way. Laugh, have some fun, maybe get a friend or 2 involved, have a little camaraderie, tell little stories of what's working, what's not, some of the little bit of fun that we have with ourselves when we catch ourselves going down an old habit, some of that inner talk that we share, our own weird little worlds that we all have when we talk to ourselves about whether we're making it work or not work for ourselves. Just have fun with it. At the end of the day, that's what we're here for. And so I guess the thing I would like to then leave you with is that the very next time that discomfort pops up for you, whatever that resistance is, whatever that uncomfortable feeling is, whatever it is that's trying to pull you back into the old way of doing things and prevent you from ingraining this new pattern that you are building up, before you even breathe, say thank you. Because when the discomfort pops up, it means that you're on the path to change. It means that good things are in the works. It means that you're headed down the right path. And then go through the steps that we just talked about. Thanks for joining us again this week.